What's up, gamer? My name's Luco, and today I'm going to show you how to get through Act 2 of Path of Exile 1's campaign faster. As a quick disclaimer, this is not meant to be a super optimal guide for speedrunners to clear through the whole campaign in 2 hours flat. It's meant for beginner and intermediate players to share the tricks that I use and the paths that I take in each act to speed things up as someone who takes 5 to 7 hours on average to go from the beginning of the campaign to the end. When you exit Act 1, you find yourself in the middle of the woods in a zone called the Southern Forest. To get to the Act 2 town, simply run towards the top of the screen until you find the way out. You can talk to Groost and Yena to check their shops if you feel like it, but when you're ready to move on, proceed out the door on the right side of town into the zone called the Old Fields. If you follow the road through this zone, it'll eventually take you to the proper exit into the next one. But I mentioned in the Act 1 guide that there would be an opportunity later in the campaign to get a second Quicksilver Flask if you didn't get one from the Chemist Strongbox in the upper prison. The Den, an extra zone located in the Old Fields, contains an optional boss that you can kill to complete a quest for Yena called the Great White Beast. It's a simple zone and the boss is not that challenging, but completing that quest will reward you with a Quicksilver Flask among several other things. I would only recommend taking the time to do this quest if you're looking for a secondary Quicksilver Flask. If you already have 2 of them, then I would recommend skipping the quest and the Den entirely. Whatever you decide to do about that quest, when you're done with it, keep following the road through the Old Fields into the crossroads. In the crossroads, keep following the road until you find a waypoint at the center of the crossroads that the zone's named after. From here, follow the road that leads toward the bottom right, which will take you to a zone called the Fell Shrine Ruins. This is a pretty long zone, but keep following the road until you find your way to a big ruined church. Go inside and click on the door in the back to enter the crypts level 1. There's no trick to navigating the crypt level 1, but inside you'll need to find your second Ascendancy Trial and the door to the crypt level 2. Just look for the book icon on your minimap for the trial and the door icon for, well, the door. The crypt level 2 is basically the same as the previous zone with no real trick to navigating it, but somewhere in the zone you'll find a big open room with a giant skeleton named Archbishop Geoffrey the Abashed. Behind him you should be able to click on the giant shrine he's guarding to make it drop a quest item called the Golden Hand. This item is all you need to finish the quest here, so you don't need to kill Geoffrey if you don't want to. When you have the item, go back to town and talk to Yena to turn it in and get a skill point. When you're done in town, use the waypoint to return to the crossroads. The next path we'll take here is the one that leads toward the top right, which will take you to a zone called the Broken Bridge. As with the previous zones, keep following the road and it'll eventually take you to a bandit encampment where you can talk to a guy named Creighton. When you talk to him, you'll get the option to either help him or kill him. This is the start of a quest that requires you to deal with 3 different bandit lords in one way or another. You can choose to either help one of them and kill the other 2, or kill all 3. Helping Creighton instead of killing him gives a small permanent buff to your movement speed, which isn't bad, but killing all 3 bandit lords gives you an extra skill point for your passive tree. The passive point is usually more helpful in the long run than the movement speed or any of the other rewards, so in my runs, I kill them all 100% of the time. When you decide what you want to do, click the button, fight the boss if you chose to kill him, and then go back to town. From there, use the waypoint to go back to the crossroads one more time, and follow the road that leads to the top left, which will take you to a zone called the Chamber of Sins level 1. This zone has a big round room a little ways in with 4 doors and a waypoint. 2 of the doors will always be blocked, but whether you manage to find your way into this room or not, check the minimap and see which side of the room the waypoint is placed on. The door that's closest to the waypoint will always give you a direct path to the Chamber of Sins level 2, so whether you find the open entrance to the room or not, just go in the direction that the waypoint indicates and you'll find the exit without any trouble. In the Chamber of Sins level 2, you'll find a boss named Veritas in Act 2's last Ascendancy Trial. The door to the boss's room will always be in either the bottom corner or the right corner of the map, so pick one of those directions, run towards it, and while you're running, look for the book icon on your minimap that marks the entrance to the trial. The boss room has a really long hallway leading up to it, so it's very important that you do the Ascendancy Trial before going to fight the boss, so you can avoid a bunch of backtracking through that hallway. After you complete the Ascendancy Trial, run down that big long hallway, beat Fidelitas, walk to the back of his room, and click on the Shocky table to collect a quest item called the Baleful Gem. Once you have it, go back to town and talk to Groost for a new skill gem as your quest reward. With that done, it's finally time to go out the door on the bottom left side of town. This takes you to a zone called the Riverways, where yet again we follow the road. This time though, the road is broken up by some ruined bridges that you can't cross unless you have a traversal skill that lets you jump over chasms like Frostblink, Flame Dash, Smoke Mine, or Leap Slam. If you don't have one of them or a similar skill, you can use a waypoint to go back to the Act 1 town and buy one of them from page 2 of Nessa's shop. Continue down the road, hopping over the bridges until you find a waypoint. When you do find it, stop following the road and run towards the top of the screen. Most of the time you'll end up directly in front of the door to a new zone called the Wetlands. If you end up at a wall instead of the door, just keep running along that wall until you find it because it won't be far off. In the wetlands, you'll find Oak, the second bandit lord, in the middle of the zone. Helping him will give you a permanent bonus of plus 40 to your maximum life, but again, the extra passive point is usually more valuable, so I recommend you kill him instead of helping him. Whatever you decide, click the button for it, deal with the fallout, then run out of Oak's fortress toward the top left side of the zone. Eventually, you'll find a waypoint as well as a cave entrance that's overgrown by some trees. We'll have to come back to that later, but for now, use the waypoint to go back to the Riverways. In the Riverways, go back to following the road and jumping over any broken bridges until you find the door to the Western Forest. You're never going to believe this, but in the Western Forest, keep following the road until you find a waypoint. From here we have 3 objectives. One is on the left side of the map, one is on the right side of the map, and the other one is on the bottom side at the end of the road. The first objective we need to find is the last bandit lord, Alira. She's one of the objectives that spawn on the left or right sides of the zone, and she always spawns on the same side of the road as the waypoint. So if the waypoint is on the left side of the road, run left, or if it's on the right side of the road, run right. If you pick a side and you see spider webs covering the trees, you picked the wrong one. That's a sign that you're on the same side as a spider boss named the Weaver. She's the last objective that we'll be doing in this zone, so if you see spiderwebs, go back to the waypoint and start exploring the other side of the zone until you find Alira's stronghold. Helping Alira instead of killing her will give you a permanent 15% bonus to all of your elemental resistances. This is probably the most useful bonus you can get from helping any of the bandits, but again, the passive point is still better in the long term, so I still kill her every time. Once you make your choice, run toward the bottom side of the map. At the very end of the road, you'll find a camp of soldiers with a boss named Captain Artillery. Kill him and he'll drop an item called a Thaumatic Emblem. Once you have it, walk to the wall on the left side of the road and click on the Graven Artifact. After that's done, run from the bottom side of the map towards whichever side has the spiderwebs all over the trees, and look for the door to a different zone called the Weaver's Chambers. This zone has a slightly tricky layout. In most cases, if you go from the door straight into the center of the zone, you'll end up exploring a big winding cave that doesn't actually lead to the arena of the boss we're looking for. From the door, you want to go sideways one way or another and look for a smaller path that branches away from the center of the zone. Most of the time, that'll get you to the boss faster than exploring through the center. After you find her, the Weaver herself is a bit annoying because she slows your move speed, deals chaos damage, and has a phase where she leaves the arena for a while and makes you fight a bunch of spiders that don't give you any XP. But since we delayed fighting her as long as possible, your character should be plenty strong enough to handle her without too much issue by this point. If you do find yourself struggling against her, you can follow the next few steps about turning in quests for extra skill points, then come back and try her again before continuing at the part where we stabbed the tree. Once the Weaver's down, pick up the quest item that dropped called Malagaro's Spike, then go back to town, and if you killed all the bandits, talk to Aramir to get the skill point reward for the quest. If you helped Alira, you got the reward as soon as you decided to help her. If you decided to help Oak or Creighton, you'll have to go back to their respective strongholds and talk to them again for the reward now that you've dealt with Alira. If you succeeded in killing the Weaver, talk to Silk for a support gem quest reward. If you haven't killed the Weaver at this point, you'll want to come back and talk to Silk as soon as it's done. Finally, go to the waypoint and use it to teleport back to Lionel's Watch in Act 1, and talk to Bestel for a skill point quest reward. This is for the quest called The Way Forward, where we killed Captain Artillery and the soldiers in the bottom of the Western Forest in Act 2. After all that's done, it's time to go stab the tree. To do that, you need Malagaro's Spike, which drops from the Weaver. So if you decided to delay that boss, now is the time to go try it again. Wherever you're at, once you have the spike and all the quests turned in, use a waypoint to go back to the wetlands in Act 2, where the roots that have grown over the entrance to the cave should be interactable now. Clicking on them will use Malagaro's Spike to stab the tree and make the roots recede from the door, opening the path into the Vaal ruins. The Vaal ruins is a bit of a maze with a bunch of dead ends, so it's kinda hard to navigate, but the correct path tends to generate in an S or a Z kind of shape. Anyways, somewhere near the middle of the zone, you'll find a big red pyramid thing called the Corruption Altar. If you click on it, it opens a window that allows you to corrupt an item, modifying it unpredictably. This can make the item stronger, but it can also completely ruin the item, so most of the time I don't bother with this. I mostly just use it as an indicator that I'm going the right way. Keep exploring until you find your way to a small bridge blocked by a massive orb called the Ancient Seal. Click on the seal to knock it out of the way and walk past it through the door into the Northern Forest. Thankfully, this zone is much simpler than the Vaal ruins. It has a side zone called the Dread Thicket, but the only thing you'll find there is an unlockable hideout, and once you have that hideout unlocked, there's exactly zero reason to go inside ever. So in the Northern Forest, you can just run from the entrance straight towards the top of the screen until you reach the door to the next zone called the Caverns. The first half of this zone is also very linear, just keep following the path until you find the waypoint. Once you do find it, the layout changes to another Vaal ruins area. From the entrance of the Vaal area, run to the top left to find the door to the next zone. You may find one or two dead ends in the top left before you actually find the right path, but this is the most reliable way that I've been able to find to navigate this area. Once you leave the caverns, you'll be in the final zone of Act 2, the Vaal pyramid. The final boss of Act 2 is at the top of the pyramid, so we need to find our way through several sets of stairs leading up to progressively smaller rooms until we find it. The rooms are always going to be square, and the stairwells will always be in one of the corners. But which corner each stairwell is in changes from layout to layout. So to get through this zone quickly, just pick a direction, either clockwise or counterclockwise, and explore each floor in that same direction until you find the stairs to the next room. Once you go through a stairwell labeled the Pyramid Apex, you'll be in the boss's arena. Walk into the room and click on the dark altar in the middle to start its spawning animation. This animation takes like 30 seconds to complete, so while it's playing, walk to the wall on the bottom left side of the room and grab the recipe for the crafting bench in your hideout. Once you have it, go back to the center of the room and fight the Vaal Oversoul. This boss is slightly more challenging than Merveil from Act 1, but it has two mechanics that are particularly dangerous. The first is a giant slam where it winds up with one of its arms and makes a high-pitched whirring noise before slamming it down, doing a ton of damage in a wide area. This can easily one-shot most characters at this point in the campaign, so make sure to get away from the boss as quickly as possible to avoid the impact area. The other mechanic to watch out for is the Vaal Oversoul's lightning beam. It locks onto your character and fires a very fast lightning beam that deals a medium amount of damage, but because it deals the lightning damage, the beam is very likely to shock your character. For those that don't know, the shock ailment increases the amount of damage you take by up to 50% based on the amount of lightning damage dealt by the hit which inflicted the ailment. When the Vaal Oversoul uses the lightning beam attack, it usually fires several lightning beams in a row. So if you get hit by the first one, it will have a high chance of shocking you, which will make the follow-up shots much more painful and more likely to kill you. To dodge this mechanic, stay close to the Oversoul, and when you see it start firing the beams, run in circles around the boss until it starts using a different attack. This mechanic can be pretty difficult to avoid at first, but once you get used to dodging it and the slam, this boss becomes a piece of cake. Once the boss is dead, collect any loot you want and go through the door on the top left side of the arena to enter Act 3. That's the entire act, and those are the paths that I take. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or in my chat while I'm live both here and on Twitch. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more like it. If you want to see similar guides for the rest of the acts, I'll put a playlist of all of them in the description and the pinned comment down below. Lastly, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.